Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. We start today's video with a fourth-floor apartment where an elderly couple swore their young neighbors were causing earthquakes. The truth? It was just a cat zooming around, and the teen upstairs turned their complaints into years of cheerful torture. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. 3 flights of stairs, 1 angry couple, and an unstoppable good mood. I used to live with my family on the 4th floor of a building. In my country, buildings with more than 4 floors are required to have an elevator. Ours just barely missed the mark, so we had to climb the stairs every single day. Not ideal, but manageable, until the neighbors below us entered the picture. They were an elderly couple, and let's just say nothing pleased them. I can kind of sympathize. If I had to drag myself up 3 flights of stairs every day at their age, I'd probably be grumpy too. But these two, they took it to a whole new level. They hated everyone. Neighbors across the hall, cooking smells were apparently a crime against humanity. Neighbors below them, music was a personal affront. Us? Oh, the complaints about us were ridiculous. "You bang on the floor so hard we fall out of bed," they'd yell, and I'm not exaggerating. That's an actual quote. The kicker, the noise wasn't coming from me, a quiet teenager tipping around, or my mom, who was barely ever home. No, the earth-shattering disturbances were coming from our cat. Yes, a featherweight zooming around like a rocket cat. During the day, she ran and played. At night, she slept peacefully under my blanket, yet somehow she was the cause of all their misery. They escalated. First it was passive-aggressive comments in the stairwell, then phone calls, then the police. Naturally, nothing came of it because, well, there wasn't any actual noise. I started dreading going home. Then one day, inspiration struck. Whenever they started yelling at me or making threats, I would just stand there, quietly, calmly, and with the sunniest, most polite smile I could muster, I'd say, "Good morning." It completely threw them off. If they continued yelling, I'd turn back mid-stairs, grin even wider, and say, "Have a great day." This became routine. Every encounter, every stairwell confrontation, every angry glare, I'd meet it with unflinching cheer. The next day, same thing. And the next, I'd see them bracing, glaring, bristling, and I'd still beam and say, "Good morning." It drove them absolutely insane. On days we met at the bottom of the stairs, we'd have to climb together. And me, I milked every step. Every few stairs, I'd glance back, flash them my brightest smile, and say, "Good morning." They hurled insults, profanities, whatever they could manage, but there was nothing they could do. They had to keep climbing with me. And I had the time of my life. This went on for years, 3, maybe 4, until we finally moved out. I never said a single mean word to them. All I ever said was, "Good morning," and "Have a nice day." If they responded politely even once, I would have stopped. But they didn't, so I kept going. Your good morning tactic was genius because it robbed them of what they wanted most, a fight. Every glare, every insult, every bit of venom they spat at you just got met with the brightest, chirpiest greeting you could muster. And our second story. Now I'm just going to park there all the time. About a month ago, I moved into a residential neighborhood, and it's important to note a few things as you read my story. My house does not have a driveway or a garage, so I have to rely on street parking. This is not a gated HOA governed area, and there are no signs, restrictions, permits whatsoever for street parking. This area is not walking distance to anything but other homes. So anyone parking on the street is either a resident of the area or visitor of a resident. No random people are trying to find short-term parking. It's a quiet neighborhood, so I can usually find street parking in front of or close to my house. However, there's one neighbor that lives 4 houses down that feels that they own the public sidewalk in front of their property and puts down cones to block off space that would fit about 3 cars. I refuse to give them the benefit of the doubt that they do this to save spots for themselves because I take my dog on frequent walks and I never have seen them use these spots to park. Additionally, they have a long driveway that never has any cars in it and a detached garage, so they already have ample parking for their personal vehicles that I've never seen. On that note, I've literally never even seen these neighbors, other than occasionally seeing lights coming from their backyard during nighttime walks. I'd probably assume there was no one living there. Shades are always closed in the front windows and never see any lights on from the front. One day I drove home and there was no parking available except for in front of their house. It was late and I didn't want to park a block away just because of this entitled house, so I simply moved a couple of their cones to the sidewalk and parked my car. The next morning I saw that they had moved the cones back to the street behind my car, which I had to move again to get my car out. They definitely noticed and acted upon my legal street parking, but just shrugged it off. A week or so later, I couldn't find parking, so the same exact situation happened, moved the cones and parked. The next day, I simply moved the cones they placed behind my car and went about my day. Yesterday, I had the situation happen yet again. Note that this is only the third time in a month that I've moved the cones to park there. I take my dog on a walk this morning, and I see a note on my windshield. It's not even a handwritten note and printed on paper. This plate number has been turned into parking enforcement. We encourage you to park in front of your own residence for the consideration of your neighbors. This note pissed me off. First of all, if you believe in consideration of your neighbors, then you shouldn't be blocking access to public parking spots where your neighbors can park. Secondly, now you're threatening me for parking legally? You want to start this fight? I'll make you pay. First revenge. I called parking enforcement myself and explained the situation, and the lady laughed and said that my neighbors had no authority to give me a notice like that, as I assumed. They also gave me a number to a Bureau of Street Services investigator who can come and take a look and then issue them a citation. Lucky for them that they're currently closed for the week as it's Friday afternoon, but I'll be calling again Monday morning. Second revenge. I live with my girlfriend who has her car parked in front of our house. I moved her car in front of the house with the cones to now make it 2 cars they didn't want there. Added bonus is that she has a Tesla, so there will be cameras in case they try to do anything to either of our cars. Potential third revenge. If the citation situation doesn't happen or work out for whatever reason, I'm considering purchasing the ugliest, oldest, cheapest vehicle I can find and register it as a planned non-operational vehicle with the DMV and then keep it forever parked in front of their house. All things considered, I see no apparent reason why they wouldn't want to have anyone park in front of their house other than simple aesthetics. They don't use the spots to park their own vehicles, and we never have random people wanting to park there on a regular basis. Update. Arrived home on Sunday night, and there was plenty of parking available, and cones were back in their usual places. Since I'd be filing a complaint the next day, I decided it would be best to not move the cones and park there so the investigator could see the situation in its full glory. Called the Bureau of Street Services this morning, and it was a bit underwhelming. Gave the representative a brief rundown of the situation, and they asked for the address of the offender. Then they asked if I wanted to provide my contact info or remain anonymous. I thought about it for a second and figured there would be nothing to gain from sharing my own info, so I decided to stay anonymous. They said they would send an investigator, and that was it. I love this. Only concern, you think these people are crazy enough to key your car or slash your tires? Regardless, thumbs up for some truly petty revenge. And our next story. We outsmarted a rude driver who cut the line. My tale of petty revenge, technically petty justice, happened back a couple of years ago. I was sitting in line at the local pharmacy drive-thru outside the grocery store. The way they have this line set up is kind of a mess. 3 cars can fit into the pharmacy line, but then it's intersected by the main drive, so the 4th person has to wait a short distance back to allow traffic to pass through. Most people are Midwest nice and follow the rules, but some people don't. The line's not moved for about 10 minutes. The little old lady at the window's taking her sweet time. I'm 3rd in line, waiting patiently across the main drive. Behind me is a lady in a minivan, 4th in line. We've both been waiting for a while. But then this jackwagon came up and horned his big SUV into the line, cutting in front of her and blocking one side of the main drive. Now he's 4th in line and she's 5th. She gets out and talks to him, but he's a total jerk to her and doesn't move. He's pretty smug about his jackwagonry. From hell's heart, I stab at thee. I hop out of my car and hurry over to her minivan. Park your van and get into my car, I tell her. We'll both go in my car and you can get your stuff when I do. She's totally down with that, so she parked the van and we both walk past Mr. Jackwagon SUV line cutter and get into my little car. Oh, that dude was pissed. I could hear him complaining. Me and the other guy were just talking and laughing, but I locked the doors just in case he tried something. But then the jackwagon got so mad that he drove off. Quick, get your car, I told her once we saw him leave the parking lot, and she hopped out and got her minivan. While she was doing that, the line moved forward finally. I just waited where I was until she drove up because I wanted to make sure she got her spot back. Then we all moved forward. It's just this little thing that happened, but oh man, justice is sweet. And our last story. Karen called the cops over a dock. Hey everyone, long-time lurker, first-time poster. I've got a slice of local justice that happened just down the shore from me. I live on a beautiful tropical island in Central America. Paradise, really. But like anywhere, there are always moments that test your patience. Next to us is a massive villa that rents for an absurd amount per week. You know the type. Infinity pool, private chef, designer, everything. But here's the key detail. By law, all beaches and docks are public. You can own the land up to the high tide line, but the sand and water belong to everyone. It's not just law, it's part of the culture here. A few weeks ago, a new family was renting the villa. You could smell the entitlement from a mile away. On Sunday, as they do every week, a local family, a grandfather, his son, and 2 young grandchildren arrived to fish off the dock. It's a family tradition, and they've been doing it for decades. I was on my porch when the chaos started. Mr. Moneybags Tourist was at the top of the dock with his wife. Let's call her Karen. Karen, hey, you can't be here. This is private property. Carlos, the grandfather, calmly replied, I'm sorry, sir. The dock is public. We are allowed to fish here. Karen's face turned bright red. The hell it is. I'm renting this house. This dock is part of the rental. Now get off before I call the police. I couldn't just watch this unfold. I walked down to the water's edge. Excuse me, he's telling the truth. All docks and beaches are public here. They have every right to be here. Karen whipped around, fully radiating. Karen, stay out of this. This is none of your business. They're trespassing. Shrug. It literally is my business. I live here, and he's not trespassing. But please, do call the police. They'll clear this up for you. She pulled out her phone, probably expecting the local police to bend over backward for her. Classic mistake. About 20 minutes later, a police officer, a calm, experienced-looking man, walks down. Karen immediately launches into her story, shouting about how these trespassers are harassing her family and ruining her vacation. The officer listens patiently, then turns to Carlos. Carlos, we come to fish. It's a public dock. The officer nods and then delivers it perfectly. Officer, listen, the man's correct. The dock is public. You are allowed to use it too. Everyone's allowed. Have a nice day. Karen's jaw literally dropped. She sputtered, tried to protest, but the officer just raised a hand, gave a polite nod, and walked back to his car. Carlos and his family spent the rest of the afternoon fishing, laughing, and catching a few good ones. The kids were having the time of their lives. Meanwhile, Karen and her husband sat by their infinity pool, fuming silently, powerless to do anything about it. It was pure, quiet justice. The locals won, the entitled tourists lost, and the dock remained exactly what it was meant to be, public. She had luxury, she had money, she had everything at her fingertips, but she couldn't control the one thing she wanted, keeping locals off a public dock. Meanwhile, the locals kept their tradition alive, laughed, and went home with fish in hand and dignity intact. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.